What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is. Welcome back to yet another video with you, man, a Majorholic. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of our Lusitani head-to-head campaign for Divided to Para for Total War Rome 2. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our conquest and unification of Iberia. News from the north is very disturbing. We're hearing much about these blue walkers and their vast empire, and so we'll be checking that out a little bit later on in this episode. But in the meantime, our king is now back at our capital, Lisbo. We need to reorganize the capital and now our newer cities try and allow us to earn some money, because right now we're having to tax the crap out of our people and our brand new subjects, and so that's going to do no favors for our public order. So we need to be the unifiers. We don't want to be the conquerors, so we're going to have to try and tone that down as quickly as we can. But in the meantime, we have to wait until the Galleci to the north are dealt with. So we're starting to send spies and scouts to the northern Iberian area, trying to figure out who we can hit after the Galleci. They are actually looking quite powerful, and probably they're going to be our main rival in taking over all of Iberia. To the east, we have the Lusitani and the Editani. The Lusitani are quite friendly towards us and are basically entering almost like an alliance with us. Meanwhile, the Editani are still completely neutral, but they're starting to fight Carthage, so we might be able to unify with them against Carthage very, very soon. Speaking of which, we can now see some massive armies from Carthage coming out of North Africa. That's extremely concerning to us. So the governor that we've installed at Cartuba will now recruit some basic units to help defend the city, just in case these colonizers try to launch a surprise attack against us, which they very well might. After recruiting some more units down there, though, it's time for us to look at the Nervii Empire. So now that we're starting to send traders to the north, starting to see their wares and explore their territory, we're starting to receive news of the extent of their kingdom, and it is vast. They hold major cities inside of the middle of Germania, such as Teleferidum. We know that they hold the coastal cities of Flevum and such. And then we now can even see their capital, a small backwater village with a king stationed inside, trying to turn it into something worthy of actually calling a capital. But in our opinion, it's pretty petty for now. I mean, you know, we have our coastal, massive, beautiful capital. And these blue walkers, they're just, you know, living in some mud huts and whatnot. So while they're primitive, they are still vast, so we got to respect the power. In the meantime, we're now starting to send out a fleet to the east. We need to send it out to the Mediterranean so we can start to engage in alliances and trade with other factions. Plus, we also need to find out if the Nervii have made it down into northern Italy or not. So we'll be sending out spies along those ships as well. In the meantime, I'm starting to check out the diplomacy for our Nervii friends and their neighbors, such as the Iceni. Unfortunately, the Iceni are definitely not interested in joining us whatsoever. Most factions aren't interested. The Iceni would have been very nice because they've been fighting the Nervii, but unfortunately, they're just not interested.
You are welcome, although my ancestors...
And neither are the other Gauls. But anyway, back down to Iberia now. Now is time, ladies and gentlemen, to take on the Galleci. They fall for it. They fall straight into our ambush. We've been waiting for months now perfectly in dead silence, and they absolutely do not expect it. So now we're going into the battle to wipe out the Galleci main army and finish them, hopefully once and for all. Here we are on the battlefield. It's a perfect ambush. They're marching along the side of a hill. It's rainy, it's dark, it's cold, it's wet, and they will have no idea what's coming at them. We do have our army split entirely in half here, which is a little bit risky. It might be better to actually just keep all of our army on top of the hill next time, but I wanted to make sure that we had them surrounded and they couldn't escape. So we begin the battle, of course, with fireballs, a traditional starter to a good old Iberian ambush. Our swordsmen send them flying down the hill, although these fireballs are a little bit kind of awkward. They kind of go in some random directions, and they're not too amazing, but they will get into the main, basically, clump of enemy infantry, and so we will see some nice fireworks from that. Ooh, look at that. Here comes the second fireball as well. Boom! Crashes straight into the enemy. It will actually hit our own men down below, but they knew what they were getting into and they will sacrifice themselves for greater Iberia. Now right here we need to kill the enemy general very, very quickly. If we can get him off the field of battle, or at the very least dead, then the rest of the army will rout in suit. We're now actually trying to send down some swordsmen from above to try and sneak in, get in behind the enemy lines. Meanwhile, the rest of the battle is going absolutely fine. On the far eastern flank, our cavalry and swordsmen have wiped out all of their skirmishers. So right now we need to start sending them back in and engage the enemy swordsmen, especially the ones that are wavering. We need to get them routing very, very quickly. And once they rout, we can charge them down to a man. We get a beautiful charge down here, downhill right now. Our swordsmen doing fantastic on the charge. They're very, very good at charging. They have high attack. They don't have very good armor or anything, so a grind out fight is not what we want. So to try and help escalate the fight that we have going on, we're going to actually pull out our cavalry and then start cycle charging them. Even though they're not really shock cav, they're still good cavalry, and their repeated shock charges will deal some massive morale damage to the enemy. And now we're starting to see a massive amount of enemy troops routing off the field of battle, and just as we send in the new charges, it coincides perfectly with those routes, and we get the entire enemy army routing off the field of battle. Now you'll see thousands of Galleci men trying to run off the field of battle, but unfortunately for them, we have way too much cavalry, and our cavalry will cut them down to the last. Now the Galleci will be entirely at our mercy. Here is the statistics if you do wish to see them. As you can see though, our Iberian slingers actually were super helpful along with our cavalry. That's a really nice 1-2 combination we have going on, although we could probably use some more cav. Unfortunately, some of our main battle line units got hammered, and that's just because they don't really have any good armor. That's an AOR unit. You can see that unit with the orange shield there. It got demolished and almost got wiped out. It's a decent unit, and it comes from our foreigner population, so it's very useful, but the low armor does mean if it gets ganged up on, it will have a lot of casualties. We get a decisive victory and wipe out basically the entire enemy army. We will ransom the captives just to get as much money as we can to help keep our economy afloat, because it's on the very edge of bankruptcy, really. Like I said earlier, we're trying to tax everything out of our people. But unfortunately, winter comes in the very next turn, so that means that our assault on the Galleci is going to be very slow, and it's not going to be able to capitalize too much on the ambush that we got against them. They still won't have enough time to recruit a new army to take us on, but they might have enough time to recruit some mercenaries to stop us in our tracks, which is very concerning. So despite it being winter and our army not really being prepared and needing time to recover, we're still going to try and push against the Galleci. It means that we'll suffer casualties, but we can knock them out quickly because they're a one-hitter quitter. It won't matter. They'll be gone off the field of battle, and that's that. And here it is. The enemy generals try to leave the city to its own devices, but they're still within reinforcement range. So here we will fight all of them at the same time. We'll take some pretty heavy casualties because we're going to auto-resolve this. I didn't want my man Toxborg to command this army, or these armies, because if he did, he'll be getting a lot more kills against us. So we auto-resolve it away without too much issue. And there we have it, the Galleci capital is wiped out, and we kill the entire garrison. We'll just occupy the city peacefully, like we said. We're the liberators of the Iberians from the Carthaginian colonization yoke, and the yoke of the Celtics who have come in from the north and are trying to colonize the area as well. Our new general here is doing fantastic, so we'll continue to try and expand his ambushing skills. Ambush is going to be super powerful for us and absolutely needed in all of our battles moving forward. So we'll be trying to focus on having ambush benefits, or just aggression-based benefits that will help us in launching surprise assaults on the enemy when we do end up fighting the Nervii eventually. So now we have to reorganize our army, get our units back up to full strengths, because now it's time to march east. We do have the enemy generals of the Galleci still alive, by the way, but since they're so tiny, it shouldn't really be too much of an issue at all. So we'll really try to focus on reorganizing our army, and then we'll be marching east, like I said. We have a lot of mercenaries in the army too, by the way. Those Iberians are mercenaries, and some of these Scutaris swordsmen you just saw me disband, they're also mercs, so that's really just draining our economy, but sometimes we just don't have the amount of time to be picky and whatnot. But in the meantime, we are continuing sending our fleet north, and as we continue to do this, we now finally run into the Massalians. The Massalians are a Greek-speaking people who live not too far away from our peninsula, so they're not necessarily our enemy, but we do need to be wary of them as well, since they're colonizers in their own right. But they seem quite powerful, and they're more than willing to have some sort of diplomatic relations with us, and they'll even pay us. So after some back and forth bickering between our negotiators, we actually get trade with them, and then from that we'll also get a non-aggression pact.
The gods of Olympus rejoice when men show such good sense.
The Massalians actually pay us for both of those, so that's nice. We get a little bit of free money, and we definitely won't complain about that. Perhaps if things continue to prosper between us, we'll even get them to be an ally of ours, which would be pretty powerful in stopping the Nervii onslaught of the north. In the meantime, the Cantabri are to our southeast. We have our spies in their area now. They have one town and one large army. We're not at war with them just yet, but it won't be too long either. So now that it is our turn, it is time for us to launch an attack on them. Now, I don't know what I was thinking here, to be honest. Looking back at this footage, to be honest, I really should have waited for the enemy army to be off on its own. I mean, I guess the units that they have didn't look powerful, and the garrison is pretty small. It's actually really tiny. But what you're about to see here is me making a pretty friggin' large mistake. We do have our one large army here led by a pretty skilled general. It's now starting to level up and is getting some really nice bonuses for his leveling. But here we make our first major blunder of the campaign, where we declare war on a faction without actually controlling the battle that we have with them. At least not really. We attack the city here shortly, but because we do that, that means that they will have a garrison inside, and the massive army outside of it will be ready to reinforce.
There is more I could do.
We try to send our spies to eliminate the enemy general before we do get engaged, but they were useless, unfortunately, and that spy gets injured in the attempt. And despite that going badly, we're still going to declare war on the Cantabri here and launch a surprise assault on their city. Now again, it's going to be a bit of a mistake, and I don't really know what I was thinking, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. So, the war is declared, the Cantabri do not have any allies, and now we charge straight onto this settlement. And that's that. As you can see, I don't know what I was thinking here, man, but the auto resolve is completely against us, and even if I fought that battle Megalith, my man Toxborg would be able to defend the settlement. So, as such, we're going to try to retreat and then draw the enemy army to the north. So basically the next safest option we can do, a decent little plan B for us. During that retreat north, though, the Cantabri do try to chase us down and hunt us down. We're able to retreat yet again, however, it won't be good enough, and the Cantabri will continue their relentless chase of our main army out of their lands, which is fair enough. And I did end up fighting the battle manually, but unfortunately the battle replay corrupted, and I can't show you guys this battle, but it actually turned out to be a pretty easy battle anyway, where the enemy army just basically attacked us, and I was able to surround them pretty easily and wipe them out. So, at the end of the day, we didn't really take too many casualties, just under 1,000, most of which was basically our cavalry. So now the Cantabri have no armies left. However, the Aravaci have joined the war against us. Now, I have no idea why or how this happened. I didn't actually get a notification that the Aravaci had declared war on us, so perhaps there was some sort of scripted event or something. I got no idea what happened. But either way, the Aravaci are now at war with us, despite not officially sending us a declaration of war. So because of that cowardice, we will forever consider them to be our enemies, and we will not rest until they're wiped out. In the meantime, though, the Lusitani, because they're at war with the Aravaci, are finally willing to have some diplomatic relations with us. Unfortunately, our negotiators kind of blow the meeting with theirs, and we end up not getting the diplomatic relations straight away, but it won't be too much longer until we solidify a deal. So at least that deal is in the making. That alliance won't be too far away, hopefully. Here we are marching on Cantabria with our army. We'll just auto-resolve them away. We'll take some pretty heavy casualties, but at least we won't take heavier casualties than what we would if we had a Fortress Bengali, which we would take quite a lot, to be honest. We'll ransom the captives, get as much money as we can, and continue our assault on the Cantabria. And here we finally take their settlement. Our army is severely depleted though, which is kind of scary. A lot of the units here though are from the freeman social class or the foreigner population, so I'm not too worried about it. We should be able to replenish it pretty quickly. And this town will have a lot of Iberians who will be persuading, quote unquote, to fight for us here. Now the Cantabria wiped out. Now it's time for us to reorganize our army, especially our cavalry. They got annihilated in the battles that we had with them. Our Balearic slingers are doing very well though, took almost no casualties, and are actually starting to gain some veterancy. However, the Aravaci come out of the mountains of the south and attack our depleted army. Thankfully though, the auto-resolve is very much in our favor, although it means we'll basically lose our entire army. But if I fought this Bengali again, you have to think of this differently, because this is a head-to-head campaign, ladies and gentlemen. My mate Toxburg would easily win that battle in my opinion, so I'm going to take that auto-resolve. We're going to take some serious casualties, but at the end of the day, we keep the settlement. The Aravaci major army is defeated, but not wiped out. So we're basically at a bit of a stalemate with the Aravaci, where we've won the most recent battle, but we know that they have more armies in their territory, plus they also have very good quality troops. To the south now though, we are moving our governor that was at Khartoum north to try and organize a very small defense at the town of Eplesia to try and hold off any Aravaci incursions, which we're expecting because it's quite weak there. To the north at Arakilum, we're trying to reorganize our depleted army and then try to counterattack and defeat that Aravaci weak army that just got beaten by us. And then once we do that, then it will be time to assault Numantia. And once we take Numantia, that's basically it. The majority of all of Iberia is now under our control. Taking Numantia will basically confirm us as the masters of the Iberians. Unfortunately though, we are not the masters of all of Iberia, and the Carthaginians will be our next major rival in that. And although they are fighting other Iberians such as the Lusitani, which is very promising for us, we will still need to be ever vigilant. And hopefully in the next episode or so, we'll finally begin our invasion against the Carthaginians. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that will have to wait until the next video. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.